Hello, and welcome to How Did This Not Get Made?
This is the podcast all about the movies that were never filmed, the scripts that were never written, and the ideas that never even made it to the page. My name is Daniel Kaka.
And I'm Lexi Riley.
And this is about a movie that actually did get made.
Yeah, we're watching it. Well, we watched it.
So this is going to be the first of many episodes that we're doing on movie reviews. This is going to be
an interim of sorts.
This is going to be a little different from how we usually do our episodes. Usually our episodes are a lot more researched. This one is not researched. Now,
this one we fly by the seat of our pants the whole time.
Yeah. Now, the idea that I came up with to do these movie review podcasts is because oftentimes when we're doing research, we have movies that we have each other watch. I know when I was doing the show with David, I would have him do required watching as well.
Required
watching, required reading.
You must do this.
Yeah, and the idea behind watching some of these movies is that you start to get sprinkles of the idea of the unmade movie kind of put into a different film, or it gives you a better perspective on the research that you're presenting so that you have kind of a base idea of like how to approach this subject, especially if you're going in cold, you're hearing the research for the first time. And I figured that instead of keeping that behind the scenes, I wanted to make it part of the show. And it's not going to be just a straight movie review podcast because there are plenty of those that are out there.
Although we might just throw it in from time to time.
Yes, but it is going to start sounding like that from our opinions. But one thing that I wanted to put into here is how does it relate to the research?
It's an educational, opinionated review.
Yeah, it's a much more guided opinion.
Yeah, and, you know, we are film nerds, and it's nice to be able to make the correlation.
Yeah. So the first episode that we're doing, the first movie that we reviewed, relates to Guillermo del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness. And in order to cover this movie, what movie did I have you watch?
Hellboy.
There are things that go bump in the night, Agent Myers. And we are the ones who bump back. Hellboy.
Had I had the hindsight to actually...
It's 2020. I've heard it's 2020.
Yeah. Had I... Well, we don't want to mention 2020 again.
Maybe it's 2024. That doesn't work either.
Had I had the foresight to actually known that we were going to make this into its own show, its own segment, it would have been interesting to see this for your first time.
Right.
But
we can do that moving forward.
We're going to be doing that moving forward, but we were able to watch the movie together.
It's kind of fun.
It was great. I liked it.
If you want to watch us watch it,
yeah,
it's part of our Patreon now.
It is part of our Patreon. We are hopefully going to move forward with, not only will we be able to watch the video, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to actually do a live watch party with our Patreon members.
So you can join in too.
We were able to record ourselves, do our live reactions to the film, and we're going to talk about that now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the more important thing of why we're doing this is how it relates, right?
Yes.
So how does Hellboy relate to At Mountains of Madness?
At Mountains of Madness, when Guillermo del Toro was working on it, he was developing the screenplay for it. He was at the same time working on Hellboy. He was in production of Hellboy and was hoping to create At the Mountains of Madness after Hellboy. Right. And how I feel like it relates to the research is, well, one, you have the common denominator, which is Guillermo del Toro, but...
Tentacles.
Yes. But knowing the Lovecraftian style, and now that it's much more prevalent today, it's much more recognizable today, viewing the movie through that lens, you can definitely tell so much of the influence that came from At the Mountains of Madness was put into Hellboy as kind of a proof of concept.
I will say during the watch party, I had to Google if tentacles and like the creature was even part of the comic book. And there's some fun art, but I haven't drawn a full conclusion yet. But you can see the like influence upon influence upon influence.
You would have to look at the Hellboy comics before Guillermo del Toro
Right.
was involved with it, because it seemed now, like the artwork
Right.
that you were able to pull up, it seems to have been
Influenced.
it part of it. Like it seems to just fit so well together. And I
Right.
think just because so many people have that image of Hellboy with the
Yeah.
behemoth at the end of the movie, like
Mm-hmm.
you associate Hellboy with like large tentacly like demon monsters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we said, Del Toro is sort of the main thread between
Mm-hmm.
the two of them.
But there is one other person.
Doug Jones. I'm just kidding.
I believe that Doug Jones, he would have been one of the I'm trying to think
Priest
of,
guy?
not the priest guy.
No, 'cause
although
that's
he
who
would have
I
been
saw.
Interesting to be the priest guy. No, I don't think he would have been the priest guy. He would have been Gunnarsson.
Oh, right. Gunnarsson blends to me. I can never quite remember which one he was.
Gunnarsson, he was the one that got infected, but he is the kind of the surrogate, the avatar that the Shoggoths keep on using
Yeah.
to like infiltrate the crew.
Is he one of the last ones standing?
He was one of the first ones that was taken out, but he
That's
was
what I thought. And that's why personally I would like Doug Jones to be the priest guy because he lasts longer, and that is it.
although you could have done so much with Doug Jones, just him being Gunnarsson, because Gunnarsson is all throughout the movie.
Right.
And he is a creature that moves, like, he can move very weirdly,
Right.
and he's able to move, like, unlike a human or, like, someone
Right.
who's,
He's
like,
got the
trying-
body movement that
Yeah.
you can see in Ape Sapiens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, in that, Ape Sapien is paired off with Hellboy being portrayed by
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman.
Lawson.
Yes, is Lawson.
Pocket
who is
salt.
the character who's made up in the At the Mountains of Madness script to kind of be the just all around badass.
Having those tethers, you can sort of almost see the casting even
Yeah.
between the two, like utilizing Ron Perlman, Doug Jones.
Yeah. And then Selma Blair is the wife that's left behind.
Like, I guess she would make it to the screen, but I'm like, I feel like she'd be left on the cutting room floor so
Yeah,
early. Not Selma Blair, but just that character.
That character was
poor,
just like-
sweet wife that was like, don't do it
And then he goes and does it. And he's like, I'm going to have a baby
and die.
and then die.
No one even can say, I told you so. She's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of similarities, lots of similar people involved. Yeah, so what is your history with this movie?
With Hellboy in particular, I remember seeing it when I was in high school. And the reason why I had watched it is because it was the trailer for that film always played before the DVD for Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
That is dating us so hardcore.
Mhm.
Remember back in my day, there were trailers before the DVD started.
And I, at the time, was and still am a Robert Rodriguez fanboy.
What?
And I would watch that movie constantly. And part of my reason for loving that movie, and in particular watching that DVD, is not just the movie, but the behind the scenes and how Robert Rodriguez kind of approached filmmaking. Where
Right.
it wasn't just about like the pure art of it or like expressing yourself. He's just like, it's fun.
I make movies.
Making movies is fun, man. Have some fun with it. So why not?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he curated the previews that are on there, but yeah, one of the trailers on there was Hellboy. And I always remember the line that was from the movie that I know that you brought up when you first saw it. You actually texted me, was there are such things as things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
And we bump back.
Yeah.
And that line was in the trailer and it really stuck with me. And because of that, I had watched it in high school. And then later on in life, I had gotten a Guillermo del Toro obsession back in like 2016. So yeah, I had gotten an obsession with watching his movies. I was going through his filmography, and naturally, like, what came up was Hellboy.
Right.
And Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, and I just like
When that attempt number 2 at Mountains of Madness, Hellboy Boogaloo.
yes. Although and the reason why I never had you watch Hellboy 2 is because it veered so far away.
Right, it left the influence behind.
I think part of it was that Guillermo del Toro was so gung-ho on making this movie that he didn't want to put it in Hellboy 2 to be like, okay, we're done with proof of concept. We're just like,
Right.
I'm hanging on to this for this one movie, nothing
Right.
else. For you, I know that with Hellboy, you had watched this for the first time.
I knew of it.
Yeah. I guess more generally, what I want to know is what was your history with Guillermo del Toro, and then what it was your first reactions to Hellboy?
Okay, so I have to go back to also college. I'm trying to think of the first one I saw. I think it might be The Orphanage, which I keep calling The Orphan, and that's not. Those are two very, very different movies. The Orphanage was one of those movies that stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
That is Guillermo del Toro, right? Because if not, it's the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark or whatever. It says he helped produce it, I guess.
Yeah, he helped produce the film. So his name might be on there as a producer.
Right.
So I think that's why.
So that was technically still correct then, was my first sort of foray into the name anyway. And I really enjoyed that movie a lot. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. But then Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, I think with Katie Holmes, is the next one that I know was him. Now I need to look up a Del Toro. Now I'm just going to pick the ones he produced that he didn't. No way. Really? All of my Del Toro knowledge is just terrible.
Yeah, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. He helped with the screenplay, but he did
Damn.
not direct.
Okay, apparently I know Del Toro's producing very well. So now I'm going to keep his list of credits in front of me and decide. So I guess Pan's Labyrinth is going to be the big one. That's not my favorite one, though. Shape of Water is my favorite.
Right.
I think Shape of Water sealed the deal for me.
Yeah. And we saw that
We did.
together. I forget if we saw it in theaters or if that was
It's 2017.
That was 20.
So we
did see it.
100%.
Yes.
Maybe that's before the A-list years. We're not sponsored by them, but maybe sponsor us.
Yeah, A-list.
I guess in my head, because there's a specific look to The Orphanage and to Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, that now that I'm thinking about them, they're not that far off from his sort of look of things. I guess heavy production influence. But I liked that those things were artistic, and I love that Pan's Labyrinth was artistic. And I think by the time we got to Shape of Water, I was like, sure, whatever he makes, I will watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess found producing influence first, and then fell for direction. Everybody also loved, around me really loved him.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those directors that if you go to film school, it's always Stanley Kubrick.
He's
Quentin
the modern,
Tarantino,
right? He's the
Steven
modern day
Spielberg, George Lucas.
sort of equivalent. He also has his own niche. Tarantino, I feel like, is like the blood, the quick cuts,
And the talking about stuff that doesn't have to do anything with the plot.
We're talking.
And it happened so many times in school that it got annoying.
So then I think Del Toro is very visual. When we were watching Hellboy, I look at it and I'm like, some of these lines, man, I think I even said, only Ron Perlman can say those.
Second date. No tongue.
It's definitely a trope that I think when Guillermo del Toro was growing up, especially in the 80s, you had those the buddy cop movies.
You can see the 80s influence on it.
Or any action movie in the 80s. They're Arnold Schwarzenegger was all about the quips.
Right. And I think writing wise, he's decent, but I think the visuals of him are the thing that really draw me in. Like you were saying, Robert Rodriguez is oh, I want to make a fun movie. I just want to have fun. I almost feel like Del Toro is the opposite. He's I will make this artistic masterpiece. Every frame is a painting. Every frame is really gorgeous and the colors are very rich. And I feel like sometimes I could watch his movies on mute. Not because I don't think the script's great, because I truly do love Shape of Water, but because I just want to study the art of the shots.
This I don't think we really need to cover so much just because it's such a well-known movie and such a well-regarded movie, but this is going to be something that's kind of there for the future. But the plot of the film, if you have never seen Hellboy before, what happens in Hellboy?
Oh,
There's the opening scene
Right.
We have the young John Hurt, young Dr. Broom, and we witness like the evil Nazis like completing whatever task they were trying to
The
do.
Rasputin Nazi, which now that I'm saying it out loud, is his character's name really Rasputin? It totally is.
Yep.
Gregory Rasputin. Not like Rasputin.
And they're there to witness it. They thwart the efforts, and in doing so, a kind of a antichrist character is born.
Rasputin.
But that's where we get
Hellboy?
Hell Baby.
Big Red.
Yeah.
Little Red. Who loves a baby Ruth.
Yeah.
It's a boy.
It's just a baby boy.
Broom takes him in, raises this creature like his own, and
He calls him father.
The one thing that I really love about it is like he is a big creature. Like Hellboy is like a big, like strong creature, and the only time that he feels reserved when he is around Broom to be like, oh, I can't like misbehave around Dad. Like there's a moment where
there is a reverence for a father.
Yeah, like there's a moment where he has a cigar and like he's supposed to be like badass with the cigar, and then like he sees his father from like not talking to him for a while,
Right, and he's like,
and then he's like, he just puts it behind his back to be like, I'm not, nope.
you saw nothing.
Yeah, so I always thought that was interesting. So there's that. We are introduced to
We cut to present day, or we cut to time forward in time.
Yeah, we have a new character who seems like a new spy agent. John Myers, played by Rupert Evans, he joins their bureau of...
He goes to the beautiful waste management building.
Yes.
And joins the secret... They don't have like there's no team name.
No, because the idea is that they're not supposed to be known, so...
Right.
He joins the new team. He's supposed to be the new assistant to Hellboy. And we
His buddy.
Yeah, and we follow Hellboy and his team. There's Abe Sapien, played by Doug Jones. Yeah. The water creature, basically the Shape of Water.
Yeah, you know what I just realized?
Yeah.
Like, yes, very Shape of Water creature, but he senses through his hands.
Senses through his hands, yes.
He doesn't do that specifically, but like we're doing the Pan's Labyrinth for those of you that aren't watching.
But yeah.
That's an interesting correlation that I literally just made while we're talking about it.
So he is joining the team. They go out and they sense something going.
They sense evil.
Evil. They go out and check on that evil. They they think they defeat it.
Right.
Because they're just like, oh, it's just like kind of like a Men in Black situation.
With his bullets full of...
It was like holy water,
clove, garlic.
Just like things that like
Hope
ward
salt
off
was
evil
in there.
spirits.
Yeah.
And like they think they kill it. And then after like that incident.
He has it stuck in his arm.
Hellboy, he goes out and goes for his love interest, Liz.
Selma Blair.
Yes. And if you listen to our previous episode, we discussed that with Hellboy and Liz in the comics. That was not a romance that was realized prior to the movie, but
I like it.
Yeah, during the movie, it was like that's when their love was realized, their connection was realized.
It makes him even more human. Like I love the reverence for his father, but there's something about how he views her that makes him even more relatable.
What I find interesting between the two of them is that they act as if they are not the right person for each other, because whenever they are together, they experience so much pain, and they think that they are the cause of that pain, when in actuality it's everything else around them that causes them so much hurt and so much pain, and they just happen to be together when that happens.
They're actually incredibly complementary together as Firestarter and Fireproof.
Yes. But yeah, it's lovely to see those two just like, they want to be together, but for whatever reason they don't. And then for whatever reason, John Myers is like, I like your girl too.
That does, like, upon, I guess, second viewing, seem so out of left field, but also so rude.
Yes. Incredibly rude. I think had Liz been the one to pursue John to be like, I want to be normal and part of society,
right, that
would make sense. But in the case where John is the one who's like trying to do like the arm stretch move around your shoulder, it's like, no, man, no.
He did something towards the end too. I can't remember what it was, but I remember you and I both being like, no, man, leave her alone.
Yeah, you don't know. You should not.
You don't flirt with your best friend's girl.
Yeah, especially like you just got hired. Hellboy is definitely
You're supposed
not
to be
liking
building
you.
trust, not breaking it.
Yeah. Through a series of incidents, Rasputin is back with his girl, Blondie.
Played by Biddy Hudson. A 2003 Gwendolyn Christie.
So the boys are back in town. The monster was like just the beginning. Turns out these predator-like creatures.
The baby Cthulhus.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny Triceratops shaped Cthulhus.
They're multiplying. They're laying eggs all over
in Hellboy's arm.
Yeah, like anywhere that they can. Just like any like hospitable.
Hospitable.
That's not a real word.
Hospitable is 100% a real word. They like a warm. What did he say? They said warm. They said a warm, dark place.
They are very sensitive to heat, light. They need a humid, dark environment to breed.
Apparently, the interior of Hellboy's arm.
That's the same as like any egg, anyway. But like these creatures are.
That's how eggs are made.
Yeah. But they seem to be the henchmen of like Rasputin and Blondie. Mostly
yes.
Rasputin. And then you have Sandman, Swords, is also like the puppet of Rasputin.
I kept calling him Frankenstein's monster because he has all this like stitching all over his body.
Yeah.
And he has a key that he can wind for a heart. Yeah.
There's a moment in there where like he kills off like one of the main bodyguards, one of the main spies, like the only
Swords
person
for arms,
but he kills off Clay, the guy with the hair plugs. And I thought this was such a clever move to be like to get on the inside where he's gonna act like he's dead, so he like twists.
Right. If I ever had a chance to have a conversation with Del Toro, I now know the number one question I would ask him. How does that body operate? Because it is in the position of a heart.
Yeah.
And it twists and like he does it previous times where it's almost like it's giving him energy.
Yeah, it feels like a wind-up
taking
toy.
away his energy.
Yeah.
But then it gets removed from his body. And I'm like, okay. How do you come back to life if the key gone?
Well, maybe that's the thing that gives him the ability to fight. There was something that John Hurt brought up when the creature was coming downstairs, and he realizes like, oh, that's not just an assassin, that's the puppet. And then Rasputin just like appears out of nowhere.
He really does.
So maybe he like willed him into life and be like, hey, put yourself together. I'm going to need you to like keep doing more killing and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll leave it to magic.
Yeah. Sandman is put together. We get to see Sandman like outside of the...
Is that his name?
No.
Because you keep saying like...
Samuel.
You notice it's really Samuel?
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
Samuel.
Yep.
So Samuel is the sand. I'm gonna
keep calling him Sandman. I just was like, I didn't notice a lot of the sand until you pointed it out.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how many other people did. And then you keep saying Sandman, and I'm like, what if people are very confused by Sandman? So I just wanted to clarify.
Yep. Samuel, he is ordered to kill John Hurt's character Broom, which is a very
father.
Like sad moment. Like Hellboy is.
We weren't very reverent, but it is.
Either at this moment we're just like, oh shit, we gotta like continue doing the work because Broom had figured out like where they're supposed to go, which is somewhere in Moscow
to number 16
in some kind of tomb, and
like
that's where we're gonna go. Also, we never mentioned this before, but we have Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah.
He is
the
like
Whoville mayor.
He is like the bureaucrat. They never really say what his official title is.
He's the team leader.
He's supposed to act as like the head of the FBI or the CIA.
He's the head of their little division.
Yeah, he's the head of it. But like when we saw him on, was it Jay Leno or something? He was like on some sort of talk show, like trying to like tell everyone Hellboy's not real.
Yes, at the beginning, yeah.
So he's the one who's like protecting the bureau, trying to keep the secret, stuff like that.
They're not there. They're not real. Yeah.
But he comes into the bureau as like this hothead of just like, I'm in charge. Stop doing things without my approval. And
we will go the way that I want to go.
Yeah. And Hellboy's is like, fuck you. I'm going to do whatever I want. So yeah.
Hellboy's like, have you seen my hand?
Yeah.
Can you do what my hand does?
Yeah. So all of them leave for Moscow, leaving behind Abe Sapien. Mm-hmm. That was actually the first time that I had noticed that Abe Sapien was not in the third act of the movie. Just
how do you not notice? I'm like, I And maybe it's because I just love Doug Jones.
But I know he got injured in
but he's floating in his tank. He seems fine.
Yeah, and like Hellboy got injured and he's still going. So,
well, Hellboy's different. Yeah, he takes a beating all the time.
Anyway, so we took out Ape Sapien, but he is replaced with Liz. She's back in the picture, and she's part of the team to help take down Rasputin, stuff like that.
Budget for film days.
Yes. They go to this tomb. Well, it's part of
it's Rasputin's tomb.
Yeah.
They asked the dead guy to specifically show them where to go.
Mm-hmm. They take out the dead guy. You never got to hear what he actually said.
No, because the subtitles weren't working. It's fine. I made it up.
The subtitles weren't working, and they really would have helped out because it helped me out when I watched it for the first time. They find the tomb. They go in there. They go through like a labyrinth of traps and whatnot. You still have Jeffrey Tambor just being like, "I'm in charge," and then something bad happens when he's
now that I think about it, that is all in someone's like mausoleum.
Yeah,
that's big old castle thing.
Like you'd think a pyramid is like too much for an Egyptian king or something like that, and you're just like, oh no, this guy made like a elaborate
escape room.
Yeah, just like Indiana Jones level, like trap. And which can only be used one time.
I mean, you really only need to use it once, though, right? Like, how many times you?
Yeah, I mean,
he can walk through it as many times as he wants because he knows where to step and what to do. It's for protection.
Maybe the guy that they picked up, he was like the architect of it. So they go through. They find like the henchmen, like predator creatures and whatnot, and Selma Blair bursts into her blue flame and like kills them all.
Well, because Hellboy gets hurt, and so he's down for the count, and just gotta save the day.
Gotta save the day. We cut to a scene where all of them have been like drained of their energy. Hellboy is injured. Selma Blair
is unconscious.
Is like unconscious
for some reason. Yeah. Maybe her power. She overpowered herself.
Mm-hmm. They are captured by Rasputin. Rasputin is like, I'm gonna take her soul unless you use your arm, which is the key to unlock like the tentacle creature from the moon.
Yeah, this marble slab with 2 keyholes.
Yep. And then he's like, all right, I will do it. And then he like...
Not to save her soul, because he takes her soul. He breathes something out of her.
And he's like, okay, fine, I'll trade or something like that. Basically, it's to save her. And he's like, he puts it into the one keyhole, turns the moon like blood red and like darkens it and turns into like this, like, and just like, oh. And then like, this is definitely where the Lovecraft influence comes in because like, it is a large tentacly monster just like emerging from the sky.
It's Chekhov's monster. Exactly. I just realized. I was like, there's always a Chekhov's monster because you see the eyeball at the beginning. There it is.
Yeah. So then Hellboy, he stops halfway through the whole ceremony and was like, nope. I
remember who I am.
Yeah. He kills Rasputin, and in doing so, the behemoth emerges from his chest and turns into this like large tentacly monster.
How big could it be?
They think they're done with everything, so it's like Liz, Hellboy, and
who's still like Liz is like barely conscious.
Yeah, she's not barely alive. They go off down a tunnel, and then they're just like, oh shit, we should really like take care of that thing. And Hellboy's like, all right, well, just like give me the belt of grenades. He goes in there,
set it and forget it.
Yep. And then he's like fights him off, and he basically like pulls a Hercules where he gets swallowed by the monster and destroys it from the inside.
Because he's fireproof.
Yeah. So
it can go off and he's fine.
Yep. Hellboy comes back down the hallway. John is like, Liz is dead. And he's like, no, she isn't.
She has no heartbeat.
And then Hellboy whispers into her ear that
a long paragraph of things.
And they didn't leave it like they did with Lost in Translation, where it's like, we should just keep the whisper. They're like, okay. Kind of feels like a producer note to be like, we should have heard what he said. And they're like, oh,
I wonder if that's a producer note or if that's something straight from the comics.
It might be.
There had to be a reason that was in there. I don't know why, but
it felt redundant. I would be okay with like him whispering because, I mean, he's a magical being. He's a magical beast.
Yeah, I mean, his whole, because what is he? Oh, now I need to remember what he whispered.
He
But it
said
was
that
something along the lines of like,
if you don't let go of her, I will cross over and make you, or something like that.
and, well, you don't want me to cross. It was
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
very big threat
It was
of
a
like,
threat.
I love her, do this, and I will come get you.
What did you say? I said, hey, you on the other side. Let her go. Because for her, I'll cross over. And then you'll be sorry.
Yeah, and they're like, whatever you are, you defeated the behemoth monster. Like, I'm not
And
dealing
death
with
or
you.
fate or whatever was like, yep, nope, take her.
Yeah, he's just like,
She's
"Okay,
yours."
No, I was just hungry for a snack, and like, yeah, you do.
This is just my job. Here you go. Please, no threats are not needed.
Yep. She bursts into a blue flame. They kiss each other. John is unscathed.
He also has a moment. I mean, he just stepped back and like sees that like their love is eternal.
Yeah.
And then he's like, maybe shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that after all of his shenanigans and rudeness towards his like new friend who he needs to work with, to have a moment and be like,
Which,
Should
spoiler
not have
alert,
done
the second one does not.
right. But we, at this
Yes,
point,
yes,
you
yes,
don't
yes.
know. So like to make the story come full circle.
Yeah, this
It-
is like his first assignment.
Yeah. It is your first assignment and you are very rude
Mm-hmm.
and hitting on your new friend's girl. And to have them, like, I needed that moment as an audience member to go, are you ever going to learn that this is not okay? You're going to learn that this is not okay.
Mhm. Then cuts to credits.
The DP's name is also Guillermo.
is also Guillermo. Tell me at least like one thing that you really loved about it.
Selma Blair.
Selma Blair.
I don't know if it's because of the Cruel Intentions kid in me. I think her acting choices are always really interesting. And there's something about her pacing in this sort of matches his. I like that their love story does not feel saccharine. It does not feel like a love story. If you want to look at a good relationship, you want to find complementary parts. And because they almost complement each other so much they don't even know, there's something that like you want to root for them because you're like, you don't see what we see. And I think a lot of that, because she really is the one who he's pining for, but she's got to feed into it in the right way. So I think it's nice.
One thing that I really loved about the story in particular, because there's like so many like little moments along the way, or like the creatures, or even some of the props, like the big gun, like those are fun to see. But I think the thing that I really appreciated about this story was how they treated Hellboy as like a blue collar worker. The way that he just like, he would go home, he just relax on the couch, want to be around his cats,
Eat his big bowl of chili.
like he acts like a blue collar worker, and then he's like, all right, I gotta go out, do my job.
He works third shift.
Yeah, and just like it just, to him, this is just another day where he's just like taking care of evil spirits and whatnot. He doesn't feel like he's better or greater than anyone else, but he feels that he is the only one that can accomplish this specific type of job.
It's a very human story at its core.
Yes.
Okay, so if those are the things we love, is there anything you hated about it?
What did I hate about the movie? John Myers pining after Liz.
Yeah.
I think that was the one thing, and we mentioned it before, just like it didn't feel necessary. It seemed out of character for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Like you establish so much of Hellboy going after Liz, wanting Liz, stalking
And
Liz.
talking to him about it.
Yeah. And it just seemed out of left field to be like, I'm going to go after Liz. It's my only option. Yeah. So I think that's one thing I truly hated about this movie.
I mean, that's fair. There are like little things, and we could have been commentating, which is why I missed it. And because it is only my second viewing, I think there were like loose moments that I was like, wait, what? But I think my bigger gripe is that the agents were just sort of bumbling for other things that are so tight. And like, oh, we can't let Hellboy be out in the streets because we have to keep him locked up. And I'm like, not one of these Jokers could put him, like, if he said, I don't want to be here, not one of you was stopping him.
Yeah, it also
not a one.
It seemed kind of inconsistent as to when Hellboy should be locked up, because he's behind this like heavily guarded, thick vault door, and then there are other scenes where he's just like walking about the lab unsupervised, just kind of doing whatever he wants. Nearly like he threatens the head of their organization, and everyone's like, that's Hellboy. He's just doing his thing.
There's the moment when Abe Sapien is in like the water tank trying to get the eggs, and the guy has the gun, basically the gun instructions on the side, and it's like, wait for it, now shoot, like the little like thing lights up, which to me very much like that took me out, because I was like, everything is very artsy and beautiful, and then this feels like an Acme gun.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, I got the big gun, or says something along that line.
Yeah.
And then immediately gets taken out. And I'm like, this is the best of our best. This is the one who's supposed to be helping. And they also don't communicate with Hellboy.
Mm-mm.
The fact that Ape Sapien is like, hey, I need help, and we don't immediately call Hellboy back. I get why we don't, for story's sake. But I'm like, this is a little suspect. It's a little sus.
Yeah.
So yeah, they weren't my favorite. I feel like they're almost borderline unnecessary. Like, unless Hellboy is like wreaking havoc on the town, I don't see the point of them.
Yeah. In this, and I think we mentioned some of this before, but what were some of the things, because we were talking about At the Mountains of Madness, what were some of the things that were in this movie, that we saw that were related? I
mean, I can say tentacles.
It's like tentacles.
But that's very obvious.
Yes.
The cold was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I even think I was like, we're in the mountains.
Yeah, just like you're already in the winter. But
there were almost like dialogue. It's like they took the At Mountains of the Madness script, changed the dialogue, and then we're like, this is this character. Because there's the one guy who has basically like in At Mountains of the Madness says, say your prayers, no one's listening.
Yeah.
And there is a scene that is very similar.
Yeah, there's an underlying tone of the Catholic religion. Yeah, there's that tone.
There's the rosary, there's the big cross.
Yeah, right in the beginning. I know that in my synopsis, I kind of avoided so much more that was actually in the script, but there is one particular character who's just very religious, prays over the whole crew, and there's a moment at the end where he's like praying to his God, and then you have the Shoggoth who comes in and be like, pray to your God because no one is listening. And it's just
yeah, the last line of At Mountains of like looks like a man, walks like a man, but isn't a man. That sort of kept in my mind too, of like, Hellboy walks like a man, walks like a man, but he's not. But he's also like not the bad guy.
Yeah.
But then if you look at Rasputin, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there is I don't know, that quote really stuck with me.
Yeah.
I think even just like seeing the runes and like that kind of thing, tonally, they're very similar.
Yeah. And then lastly, would you recommend this movie?
I would need it recommended to me. Like, it is not a movie that I would go out of my way to watch. I tend to enjoy Del Toro's stuff for the spooky factor. Mm-hmm. So like, I've never seen his version of Pinocchio, and I've heard it's beautiful and great. So like, it's on my list of things to do. But yeah, I would need it recommended to me. I don't know that my brain would gravitate towards it, which is sad because it's a good movie. I think now, outside of like the scenes that were clearly like a puppet or a man in a suit, the CG is a little dated. So I would give a precursor. But yeah, I mean, I would say if someone asked me about it, I don't know that I would put it on my Insta recommend list.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
So my camera's right here. Hell yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What was it? There's another camera.
Oh.
There's another camera. Whoa.
Okay.
Maybe just this one.
Just that one. Hell yeah. Okay.
He said hell yeah.
Of course. Like, this is one of Guillermo del Toro's early films, but what I find interesting, I don't know if you ever listened to the show Blank Check, the podcast Blank Check.
No, I've seen the Disney Channel original movie, though.
Blank Check, the premise of the show is...
Do they get a blank check? Do they buy a castle with a...
The premise of the show is they go over the discography of a director, like...
oh, that's fun.
But they will hone in and focus primarily on, like, what is the movie where the studio was just like, yeah, put all the eggs in our basket.
Oh,
about this guy.
where does the director get the blank check?
Yeah, and like, what is the movie where they can just go nuts and wild and what?
Interesting. And you think it's this one for him?
I don't believe it is this one,
I was
but
gonna say.
this is one of the first ones that does so, because he had done Kronos, Mimic,
He did
and
the
then
Devil's Backbone?
The Devil's Backbone, if you remember, that was the movie that like nearly made him quit. He came back to the States and they allowed him to do Blade 2, and they're just like, all right, let's just let this guy loose. And Hellboy was like one of the first movies where they just like let him go and they really trusted him with the material.
Yeah, because he goes from Hellboy to Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, and it's just really great to see him.
That's where he got the blank check. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
But that's where I feel like he was able to really let loose, do the movie that he wanted to do, given a budget that allowed him to make that happen. And it's really interesting to see what he was able to do in his early career that we now see put into the other movies. Like we were talking about Ape Sapien and how much of that related to Shape of Water. Just
from glancing at his credits, when you look at them, they are very, I guess, spooky or horror feeling. And then you get to Blade 2, which I haven't seen in forever, but you know, the vampire. And then Hellboy. Hellboy does seem like the first artistic moment he got to have, but it seems like that's where they were like, okay, man, show us what you can do. And he did. And then they were like, oh, well, then here, make Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely recommend that movie.
I mean, yeah, anything. I guess at the end of the day, anything he does, I would recommend. Or just to see if you are into film, like you were saying earlier with the Tarantino. Like he is part of a film class. So therefore, you should see it.
I think that concludes our episode on Hellboy. If you wanted to see our live reaction,
it's not really a watch party because it's just us. I mean, we're having a good time.
If you want to watch us watch that movie,
if you want to watch our duo watch party,
you can go ahead and do so on our Patreon. Also on our Patreon, you can find ad-free episodes of this podcast. And if you want to put in your voice of what our finale,
lucky number 13,
our season finale episode should be, you can also do that on our Patreon. That is only $5. That is patreon.com/how did this not get made podcast. If you cannot support us financially, that is perfectly fine. There are other ways that you can support us. You can rate and review the show. You can follow us on our social media. We have our TikTok and our Instagram, both of them at How Did This Not Get Made.
If you want to tell us what we're doing that's right or what's wrong,
if you want to give us just
happy suggestions, any feedback,
that is notgetmade@gmail.com.
we check them. We actually check them and hear everything you guys are saying, and we appreciate it.
I should also mention that we are actually part of a podcast network, Pipe Dream Podcast. There's the Weird Alphabet. There's nothing going on there. Just if you want to go through that backlog, that is fine. You are in one
If you like
episodes.
the Weird Al, there's some cool stuff. There's no new episodes, but there is plenty to listen to.
Yes, there is also Come On Fuhuka Pods. I'm hoping for them to come back. Also, Mystery Shack Look Back. They just came out with a new episode. Definitely check that out. And there is Escape from Walt Disney.
Lots and lots of things.
Lots of stuff that you can check out while you're waiting for new episodes of How Did This Not Get Made. Anything you want to plug?
You know what? I actually do have something I want to add.
Sure.
I do think it'd be fun to talk about things that we've recently seen, like do a real quick review.
Okay.
So it's not like what made us happy this week, but we did both go see Heretic.
Yes. I learned a lot about Monopoly.
And that's the review. But yeah, that's... I think I didn't know that we could review it so quick and so concisely. But yeah, Heretic. Go see it. You'll learn how to play Monopoly.
Yeah.
Or you'll learn about Monopoly.
If you have religious trauma, this is the movie for you.
Monopoly!
Yay!
Great.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye now.